mother of 6 strong Black men. The Rich family collectively served a 21-year sentence. You see, because when one family member serves time, they all serve time. Co-founder of Rich Family Ministries, where the mission is changing lives and laws through love. Star of the Oscar-nominated documentary Time, residing in New Orleans, where the incarceration rate is the highest in the world per capita. As I've introduced to some and presented to others, the realest speaker of the 21st century, none other than Miss Fox Rich.
I'm gonna have to take Bernice on tour with me. Good morning.
Good morning.
If you would be so kind as to repeat these words after me, Fox Rich.
Fox Rich.
Above all.
Above all.
And before anything else.
And before anything else.
We are people first.
We are people first.
Oh, y'all gotta say it like you mean it. Fox Rich.
Fox Rich.
Above all.
Above all.
And before anything else.
Before anything else.
We are people first.
We are people first.
Good morning, peace and love, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, and my fellow freedom fighters that are in this room today, good morning. I greet you with a spirit of love and a spirit of conviction that knows no bounds this morning. Thank you for your presence and for being here. It is with great pleasure that I accept this invitation to deliver the keynote address this morning, the opening keynote address for the 4th annual National Returning Citizens Conference. To recognize, in recognition of Second Chance Month, I am so grateful for the 400 years of African American History Federal Commission for hosting this event and being in union with the National Alliance of Faith and Justice. To our reentry service providers and advocates from across this country, thank you for your love, for your support, and for believing that there is work that must be done. So your presence speaks volumes because you are here this morning. So I say thank you. I was thinking as I prepared for this message, a group of this magnitude, what is the word that I could deliver that could potentially have impact and make a difference? And when I thought about the fact that in addition to all of the amazing things that Ms. Bernice shared about me, I am also an ambassador for Forward.us and their People First campaign. And in thinking about being an ambassador for the People First campaign, we use words as a method to reduce harm, to share empathy, and to provide a space where we recognize the humanity in our sisters and brothers that are serving time across this country. So under that auspice, I thought to myself, what better way to deliver a message this morning than to talk about the power of words themselves. There is power in our words, great ones. What we say matters. And so today I want us to just sit in the thought of, as we think about how we speak about this condition of incarceration here in America, how are we using our words and how do our words play out in what we have created in our society? I got to begin my message by first acknowledging all of my formerly incarcerated sisters and brothers in the room, the returning citizens up here. Please, make some noise if you don't mind. It is amazing to watch in my almost 30-year journey through the criminal justice system at this point, how God has taken the least of us and brought us to some of the highest platforms in our nation and on our world stage. I know that one of the most difficult things that I have found about being a returning citizen is sometimes the disappointment that comes along with what got us here in the first place. Y'all don't mind if I take you through the disappointment, huh? Y'all don't mind if I take you through the disappointment, huh? See, typically it's the people that are closest to us that will remind us of my 78-year-old mother in January. She had had a health episode, so my husband and I were, rolling up our sleeves to dig in and see how it is that we can support her. Because when I went off to prison, and I'm wondering what kind of time the district attorney is going to give me, because for my involvement in our offense, dropping my husband off at the bank, the district attorney wanted to give me 40 years in prison. Y'all didn't hear what I said. I said for dropping them off as a first offender, the district attorney wanted to offer me a plea deal for 40 years in prison. And so as I'm contemplating that, and my lawyer says to me, well, I've gotten them down to 12 years. So Fox, you may want to take this. 12 years, I just dropped them off. And I go home and I tell my mother, my husband had already been sentenced to 60 years. And I tell my mother, they're talking about me doing 12 years in prison. I'm gonna have to go. I had just given birth to twins. My twins were not even 1 year old. And my mother said to me, you want to do what you gotta do to get this behind you. And me and those boys, 4 of them in the town, we gonna be all right. I hadn't even considered what would happen to my children when I was removed from society, but my mother, she was there thinking 2 steps ahead of me and willing to step up and take responsibility for caring for my children in my absence, my husband and I's absence. But January 2024, we're sitting at breakfast with my mother. General conversation, and my mother says, you just didn't keep your eye on the prize. I raised you to make something of yourself, and you failed. Now I've been home from prison for 22 years. And by my own account, I think I've done some quite miraculous things in my future. But my 78-year-old mother says to me in this moment, 22 years later, after returning home, that you failed me. I could sense the deep disappointment in my mother's voice. Anybody in here know they got some people in their family that they disappointed? Some people in their family that they let down? Well, for me, it was a matter of saying that, wow, all these years later, and my mother is still deeply disappointed. But what she didn't realize is that I had been disappointed in myself. It matters not what other people think about us. What matters most, returning citizens, is what we know to be true about ourselves. I was disappointed in the choices that I had made. But in my same sentiments, as I sit there at the table with my mother, trying to honor her as my elder, but definitely having my own emotions about what she was saying to me 22 years later, I immediately respond to her and I say, well, you know what, my mother? I thank God that I serve a God who believes in second chances. Somebody say second chances. I thank God that I serve a God that didn't give up on me at my lowest point. And even greater than that, I am thankful that I serve a God that will take the least of us and rise us to the highest of platforms in our world when we believe. Somebody say, speak, Fox Rich. Speak, Fox Rich. If you don't think you meet me for the first time, I don't want you to take my word for it. But maybe we could reflect on what it says in the Bible. You all know the story of David. David was an adulterer who was getting it on with Bathsheba and even killed her husband so that he could have her. He had committed murder, but yet God rose David to the highest of heights. He became known as one of the great kings of wisdom. That's what God did for David. Oh, y'all not feeling that. But maybe we could look at Saul. They say that Saul was the one that was mainly out in the streets persecuting the Christians. But by the time God got through with him with his Damascus Road experience, God elevated Saul to become Paul, and he became one of our greatest prophets. Don't tell me what God can't do through us, returning citizens, when we believe and trust in the process. Somebody say, I'm more than the worst thing I've ever done. Somebody say, I'm more than the worst thing I've ever done. And so what I say to you I am proud. Disappointed in one sense, but if we have no test, then how can we possibly have a testimony? I want to say to my returning citizens this morning that God is using us in this season, that this is a very special occasion for us to take note and to be the voices for the voiceless of all the sisters and brothers that we left behind. My prayer when I was incarcerated was just that God would let me speak to what I had bear witness to, because I genuinely believe that when we know better, we'll do better. I believe that if our society really know how we're treating our sisters and brothers behind bars, then we would make some better decisions about what we're doing to our fellow human beings. Because above all, and beyond anything else, we're people first. And our words and how we move in this life have power. So if you don't mind, I know I've got the 400 Commission on African American History here, so if you would be so kind as to walk with me through a little history and how we in our country have used our words. Do you mind? Yeah. Will you oblige me kindly? Go for it. I was looking back through the history books and how words have impacted our society, and it took me all the way back to 1787 to the Philadelphia Constitutional Convention. Y'all remember that convention? That's when they came up with the 3/5 compromise. The 3/5 compromise is the North and the South were arguing over how we gonna count these enslaved human beings. And so society in that time frame decided that they would use their words to label a group of God's people as 3/5 human. Now, I don't know about y'all, but I'm still trying to figure out how the hell you get to be 3/5 of a human being. Somebody say, speak Fox Rich.
Speak Fox Rich.
So we look at how they labeled us as less than human, because when you can label someone as less than human, then that means you can treat them less than human. And above all, beyond anything else, we are people first. Okay, well, let me bring you forward in history a little bit. Maybe I took you back too far. Let's go to 1857 over in Missouri, and let's take a look at the Dred Scott decision. When the Chief Justice, what's the gentleman's name? Roger Tanner says that no African American, and I'm sure he didn't use African American in 1857, free or enslaved, can ever be an American citizen. No African American free or enslaved in 1857, Chief Justice Tanner says, can never be an American citizen. Boy, I bet if he saw the inauguration of Barack Obama and the swearing in of Vice President Kamala Harris, the brother probably turning over in his grave right now. Words have power, and if that's not enough for you, when you think about how we became the largest incarcerated in the world, then let me take you to maybe 1865. Is it okay if we go to 1865? You don't mind a little history in here today, huh? In 1865, it says that the amendment was ratified to abolish slavery, but check it out. The 13th Amendment to the Constitution, it says neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime, whereof the party shall be duly convicted, shall exist in the United States or any place subject in the jurisdiction. Words have power. Slavery was never ended with the 13th Amendment, family. It was only modified. Somebody say, speak Fox Rich. Speak. So when we wonder why we are the largest incarcerator in the entire world, why we lock up more of our citizens than any other place on the planet Earth, then maybe we can go back to 1865 and see that slavery was never ended. It was simply modified. Words have power. But one of the other things that I know is just like words will work against us, words will work for us. I I'm not telling you what I've heard, but I would like to share with you what I know firsthand. As a formerly incarcerated woman who came home and worked for 21 years to free my family.
Come on.
You see, one of the things that I understood on my journey is that there is nothing more powerful than family. And love knows no bounds. And when we believe there is nothing that can stop us because we become a force, I believed that my family deserved better than what the state of Louisiana had given us. I believed that my family deserved to be restored, and that 60-year sentence, the death by incarceration that they laid on my husband, I felt that it was unfair and unjust. And it mattered not what the state of Louisiana said. What mattered most is the words that my family used to describe our situation. And for 21 years, family, I tell you, at the beginning of every year, our New Year's resolution that freedom would be ours. The next year, when my husband didn't come home, we would say it all over again. This year is the year that our family is going to be free. And the next year, we would say the same thing. And the next year, we would say the same. And for 21 years, we said the same thing until September 20th, 2018, when my husband walked out the gate of that wall of prison as a free man, and took the arms of his wife, and took the arms of his 6 sons, returned and restored back to his family where he belonged, because we knew that above all, beyond anything else, he was a human being first. A human being that had value, a human being that we love. So we use the power of our words to bring him home. I am convinced that the people in this room today, that we will use the power of our words at this gathering to change the trajectory of our nation at this gathering. Our country will no longer be the same because these great minds in this room this weekend have come together to do something that has never been done.
Come on.
Preach, Mama.
Oh, you gonna work with me, brother. I think it'll help me out. Together we can change what we believe is unjust. Together we can use our words to power our dreams and let freedom reign for all of our people. Because above all and beyond anything else, we are people first. Thank you so much for having me.
Question.